Hello, welcome back to Lethal Kindness. I'm putting my hand in front of my mouth so that you don't see that my teeth have been stained black from eating a lot of darkly pigmented foods like dark quinoa, like really brown quinoa, and black lentils, and yeah, I'm a little self-conscious. I don't necessarily want to get it on film. But anyway, since we're talking about, things normally associated with the color black, let's talk about some of my brushes with death. There haven't really been that many. I've played it pretty safe myself. But there's four, I think, that kind of make a good list. Starting with number one. When I was in the first grade, little guy, I came down with pneumonia. And then I went to doctors and they took care of it for me. They gave me some medicine. I don't even really remember the medicine, but they. And the only reason why this made the list is because when I was a kid, I remember them saying, like, Justin, this is a disease that could kill you. What? Why are you trying to scare kids like that? Why are you trying to do that? Seriously. Alright. Number two does take quite a dark turn. I don't know how, close to physical death, but it was a very risky injury I sustained at the age, probably around 6 or so, the age of 6, when I was assaulted by a grown fucking man. Fuck that. I'll tell you about it. Sorry about that. I should have put a little, I guess I'll put a trigger warning. Anyway. It was my first ever gymnastics class, and it was my gymnastics instructor. And I was a kid there, a young kid, like I said, 6. And I know this because, well, parts of the memory are very vivid. Yeah, this is the kind of memory that kind of sticks for a while. So please be careful. Yeah, it was part of the class. He said, hey, we're going to do somersaults. And I was really afraid to do somersaults because I didn't know how to go forward and then come out the other side, facing forward again. And it seemed like it was new and mind-blowing for me. And I was very hesitant to try, and all the other kids were having so much fun doing it. And then finally, I'll thank him for this. He got me to do it, and I did it, and I was like, wow, this really is so fun. I see why they were doing it over and over and over again, and I wanted to do it over and over and over again myself. I really did. So I kept on doing it over and over and over again because I wanted to catch up with everybody else. I didn't really understand that, you don't practice something more than just once. I mean, you do practice more than just once. I don't know why I said the opposite there. Maybe the head trauma. But anyway, he wanted to move on to something else with the class. And I guess he did. because as I was throwing myself forward into somersaults continually, having the time of my life doing it, trying to catch up with everybody else, throwing the weight of my body forward, he decided that it would be a good idea to try and stop me mid-roll by grabbing my hair and pulling my head backwards. Now, a few years later, I pick up the guitar, and I'm like wondering, why do I get headaches all the time? I'm starting to get one just thinking about it. So I'm gonna try and do something different. In fact, yeah, all sorts of weird repercussions from that, certainly. But yeah, it was kind of intense. I remember expecting the same kind of joy of doing another somersault when all of a sudden the whole world disappeared and I found myself nowhere, literally nowhere. And remembering that it was there's a choice to go back. And I had to choose to come back. it's kind of heavy. I don't know. I don't like to think about that too much, but hey, sometimes it finds its way into my thoughts anyway. What am I gonna do? Who am I to judge life? So, yeah. Anyway, fast forward. I think that there is a correlation, maybe even a causation, but between the discomfort of prolonged doing the thing I love. Hey, look, there's guitars. Oh, by the way, I'm mentioning that these guitars are are for sale right now. I have a reverb shop. I'm going to put that link in the description, and I'm pointing down. And I'm also going to say hit like and subscribe because this is a YouTube video, and I'm supposed to do that. These are rituals. Yeah, these guitars, I'm selling them because I would rather see food go to my homeless neighbors than see a cool guitar in my hand right now. That's how I feel. I know there's no shortage of cool guitars in the world. But anyway, that's something else. Getting back to the story at hand. Oh yeah, I remember like coming to and like being like kind of like that, kind of and like looking up at the guy and just seeing sheer terror on his face. You know what? He fucking deserved that sheer terror. And if he wants to, by chance, come across this video and apologize to me, I would love to hear. I'd love to hear that. But anyway, moving on. Moving on, 3. 3 is kind of like number 1. I had appendicitis in the 3rd grade, so I guess that would have been maybe like 2 or so years after that. And the reason why I bring that up is because, yeah, it was a little scary. And it was like another one of those instances where the doctors were like, hey, Justin, this is something that could kill you. And I was like, little 3rd grader. Anyway, the 4th one is very bizarre. And this was a concussion I had sustained from falling out of a tree. Yeah, falling out of a tree. Anyway, almost like, hold on, I gotta start. I'm gonna try and make this story make sense to you in as few words as possible. I was hanging out on a hike at Mount Tammany. I forget the name of the actual park, but it's on the Delaware water gap or recreation area. And going on this wonderful hike with a wonderful group of individuals, hanging out, doing all sorts of things that I like to do. Run around in the woods, climb on like trees and rocks and things, and whatchamacallit? Oh yeah. Like there's a particular kind of arrangement of trees known affectionately by me as well as other people to be known as the death walks, where they're literally just fallen trees. They're called death walks because they're made out of dead trees, but also because apparently if you go up high enough, you also run the risk of death. Yikes! I do not recommend doing. I do not recommend doing the thing that I did in this story, which was hang out and like think, oh, you know what? I got myself into a situation where I'm thinking that it might be easier for me to kind of take a hop step backwards up to the log on a crisscross of logs. I was on a crisscross of logs, and I wanted to go back up to the higher one from the lower one that I was on. And I said, you know what? How about instead of carefully doing something to carefully turn myself around and extricate myself from the situation, or maybe even safely get down from this height, which was pretty high. I want to say it was at least 12 feet in the air. At least 12 feet. Yikes. Be careful. It might have been higher than that. The counts of the individuals that I was with ranged from like 12 to like 15 feet or something. But anyway, we all survived. We all survived. And yeah. So I'm thinking, why don't I just take a hop skip backwards to where I was? I feel able enough in my body. But of course, this was after taking like an 11-mile hike being not as stable in foot as I thought I was, and then having the "oh, this is happening now" moment when I realized I need to think about all of those videos I saw on YouTube of how squirrels land and how cats land. And I'm so glad that I paid attention, because I caught myself with 5 different limbs. My 2 feet, one here, one there. That's all you get. They're kind of dirty. Sorry about that. My 2 hands, and yes, my face, my head. I saw the rock and I was like, that's the rock I'm going to hit with my face. And on that day, I lost a lot of fear of getting punched in the face. Because at that moment, well, funnily enough, going back to the story number 2 of being assaulted by the gymnastics instructor, I felt like my neck cracked into place and felt really good. And then, what happened next? Why am I having trouble remembering? Oh yeah, of course there was like the seeing stars, the flash of light. It's almost like you see like a shape of light that is your own skeleton from a more external perspective, just for like a brief blip of time, right? And yeah, so I was like, holy shit. I literally just bounced my face on a rock. And I thought too, like I played a little soccer as a kid. I was like, you always want to hit with this part of your head because that's like the hardest. And I thought about that. And I scrunched my face and I was okay. It worked. There's also a peculiar exercise routine that I've had leading up to this, which I would say in a strange way kind of prepared me for it. And I'll talk to you about that in another video. So yeah, I'm surprised. I literally stand up. I'm like, what happened? Like, I only really had this one little part of the cartilage of my nose like split a little bit, and I still have a slight scar you can see there. But I kept all my teeth, didn't break my nose. I'm like really, really lucky. Really, really, really lucky. And my body is pumping full of adrenaline, and I'm like, wow, I feel actually surprisingly and astonishingly good after everything that just happened. Let's start walking. Let's get the fuck out of here. But then, of course, I'm like, wait a minute. I've fainted before. I know what this feeling is. I'm gonna need to start sitting down so I don't fall down. All right, let me sit down. And then I had my NNDE, half OBE. Yes, the near-death experience. I wouldn't call it a near-death experience. It was a concussion, and a pretty extreme one. But I wouldn't call it a full near. So there's got to be like a double. You got to put the double N in there for like the near death. And I call it like a half OBE because I remember at one point I just kind of like, I was just sitting up. I just sat up. So just like the top half was out of body. My legs, I think, were still there. So then, anyway, yeah, this was a pretty intense thing. I remember in regaining consciousness, I was blind. Like, I couldn't see. I'd like temporarily lost my sight. And very interestingly enough, I don't have any cards near me. Oh, I do. Hold on. I have some cards near me. I did get my vision back. And the way that it came back was like in phases. Well, let me open up these cards. I made a deck of cards because I want to teach people how to play music. But it was interesting. Like, this is one of the cards that I made. This is the back. This is the front side of it. This one has to do with adding octaves to a group of 2 or 3 or 4 notes. Anyway, this interesting shape is kind of like the mask that it was like a screen. Vision started coming back to me in terms of just like a screen, like almost like you're looking through layers and layers of screen and making all these interesting like geometric formations in the way that they don't quite fully come through. So it was very interesting. It was almost like this was a mask through which I was viewing reality. Like this shape filled in. I mean, imagine the colors reverse. Like this white background is black, and this black shape is reality, or so-called reality, that you can see. Um, yeah, okay. I went later on. I did go to the ER. They got to see me really quickly because they're supposed to when you have head trauma. That's an important thing to remember. And I was fine, thank goodness. But that was in 2022. I'm about I'm about to turn 42 years of age. How? How? Anyway, I guess I play it mostly safe. I do. You gotta have your one. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope there was some kind of interesting um, insight that was gleaned from this random foray into someone else's experience. Thanks. Talk soon. Love you. Bye.